Cinderella's magic moment. Hi, my little stars. Welcome to Grandma Tilly's Bedtime Tales. I'm the narrator. Tonight's story is about kindness, dreams, and a magical night that changed everything. Ready? Let's begin. Once upon a time, deep within a whispering wood, there lived a girl everyone called Cinderella. Oh, so sweet. She had hair like spun gold, skin as white as snow, and lips as red as roses. But sadly, she wasn't living happily ever after. You see, Cinderella's parents had died, and she now lived with her stepmother and stepsisters, who weren't very nice. The worst part was, they wouldn't let Cinderella be a kid. From the time the sun peeked over the hills until it was dark again, she worked like a little housekeeper. She dusted, she polished, she scrubbed, she swept, and she cooked delicious meals. Yet, despite all her hard work, her stepfamily just yelled at her more. Oh, those stepsisters. They were as vain as could be. All they cared about was their looks and having fun. And poor Cinderella spent her days working and her nights dreaming of a better life. Sometimes she'd stand by the window and stare at the moon. Then she'd whisper, "Oh moon, if only my dreams would come true." The moon would shine brighter and wink, but she couldn't hear the moon's reply. One day, right after breakfast, the stepsisters ran to the window, screaming, "Look, look." They were as excited as puppies. "What is it? What is it?" Cinderella asked, peering over their shoulders. Outside, a royal messenger was making an announcement. Said His Majesty the King is hosting a grand ball at the palace. The prince is looking for a bride, and all eligible girls are invited to meet him. Eligible? What does that mean? Cinderella wondered. Perhaps she could catch a glimpse of him from afar. But then her stepsisters started cackling. "Ha ha, Cinderella, you won't be going." "Yeah," said one, adjusting her headband. "But you're just a lowly servant." The other one rolled her eyes and said, "And besides, you don't have a fancy dress." Cinderella sighed. Of course, she didn't have a dress or shoes or anything else that was pretty. Living with her stepfamily, she never got anything nice. As soon as the messenger was out of sight, she dropped to her knees and cried. Oh, she wanted to go to the ball so much. Suddenly, she heard a voice. "Why are you crying?" She looked up to see a little field mouse poking its head out from under a chair. "Oh, I wish I could go to the royal ball," she whispered, sniffling. "But my stepsisters won't let me." The mouse scurried closer. "Why not?" Cinderella shook her head. "They're too mean. And besides, I have no beautiful dress or shoes." The mouse twitched its whiskers. "Leave those worries to me." Then it dashed out the door. Cinderella watched it go and thought, mice don't normally solve problems. Still, she felt a tiny glimmer of hope. Maybe the mouse knew something. A few moments later, Cinderella heard a tinkling laugh. She turned around to see the field mouse followed by a whole army of mice, and behind them stood a woman with sparkling wings and a wand. It was a fairy godmother. "I'm here because you wished upon a star," she said, smiling. "Oh, please help me go to the ball," Cinderella begged. Of course. The fairy godmother waved her wand. First, she pointed it at a nearby pumpkin. It glowed and grew until it became a golden carriage. Next, she tapped the mice, who transformed into strong horses. Finally, she turned her eyes to Cinderella. "For this to last only until midnight," she warned, "but you may keep the rest." Cinderella gasped. Before her stood a beautiful gown made of shimmering blue silk. It sparkled like 1,000 stars. The fairy godmother waved her wand once more. And poof, 2 delicate glass slippers appeared on Cinderella's feet. "Oh, thank you, fairy godmother." Cinderella twirled around in her new dress. It was the happiest she'd ever been in her life. She raced downstairs. Her stepsisters and stepmother were putting on their own fancy dresses. "Where are you going?" her stepmother demanded. "To the royal ball," Cinderella answered, her chin held high. Her stepsisters and stepmother gasped. Couldn't believe Cinderella had become such a beauty. But before they could say a word, Cinderella stepped into the carriage, and the horses started to move. Soon they were flying along, past houses, past gardens, past trees. In less than a minute, the palace was in sight. When Cinderella arrived, the prince hadn't shown up yet, but all the other eligible girls were there. Some danced, some chatted, some waited for the prince to appear. Cinderella stood near the windows, watching the moon climb higher and higher in the sky. Suddenly, she heard trumpets blare. Everyone turned to the entrance to see the handsome prince. He walked with his head held high, looking like a real-life Prince Charming. The music changed. Now it was slow and sweet. The prince approached Cinderella and offered her his hand. "Will you dance with me?" he asked. Cinderella blushed and nodded. They danced together beneath the glittering chandeliers. No one else seemed to exist. For Cinderella and the prince, it was the happiest moment of their lives. But then she heard the first chime of the clock. She froze. Oh, no, the spell would soon break. She quickly curtsied to the prince and fled the ballroom. The prince stopped dancing and stared at the empty space where Cinderella had stood. One of his knights approached. "My lord, shall I chase after her?" he asked. "Yes," said the prince, taking off his velvet gloves. "Find out who she is and bring her back to me." The knight bowed and hurried out of the palace. Meanwhile, Cinderella ran through the castle. She went down long hallways, across courtyards, and over drawbridges. In her haste, she lost one of her glass slippers on the stairs. When Cinderella finally reached the carriage, the spell was already broken. She was once again wearing rags. She looked back at the palace, tears streaming down her face. She'd never forget her magical night, but how could she ever go back? The next day, the prince searched everywhere for the mysterious girl he'd met at the ball. He visited every house in the kingdom, but no one knew who she was. Finally, his knights arrived at Cinderella's house. "We're looking for a girl who lost one of these slippers at the ball," one of them said, holding it up. "Do you know her?" Cinderella's stepsisters screamed. We do. They shoved each other out of the way, eager to show their feet. But the slipper didn't fit either one of them. Just then, Cinderella stepped forward. She hadn't meant to, but the truth was she couldn't stop herself. She wanted the prince to see that she was the girl from the ball. She slowly slipped the shoe onto her foot. It fit perfectly. The prince recognized her instantly. "You are the most beautiful girl in the kingdom," he said, taking her hand. Cinderella blushed. All this time, her stepmother had stared at them in disbelief. She couldn't believe Cinderella was the mysterious girl. How could this be? She thought. The prince lifted Cinderella into his carriage. As they rode away, her stepsisters screamed, "Wait! Come back! Don't go with him!" But Cinderella didn't even turn around. She was too happy. She was going to marry the prince. She was going to live in a castle. And best of all, she was going to be kind to everyone. As soon as they arrived at the palace, everyone cheered. Musicians played. Knights saluted. And birds sang from the trees. Later, when Cinderella was a princess, she married the prince. And they lived in a castle filled with kindness, love, and laughter. Every night before bed, she told her children the story of her amazing adventure, reminding them to always stay true to themselves. 'Cause even if you're just a simple girl in rags, your dreams can come true. Oh, my little stars, that's tonight's story. I hope you enjoyed Cinderella's magic moment. Remember, no matter what challenges you face, never stop believing in your dreams. Just like Cinderella, you can achieve anything you set your mind to. Thank you for joining me on this magical journey. May your dreams tonight be as magical as Cinderella's. Good night, my little stars. Now it's time to close our storybook. If you liked this tale, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you haven't already, subscribe to our channel to get notifications on all our new stories.